Welcome back to Night Mine, friends. Glad you could all join me again this evening. Forgive me if it seems a bit early, but I've always felt like August is the Friday morning of summer, so I've got a whole lot of autumn feelings coming on. Maybe you know where I'm coming from, just wanting to be done with the heat and the overstayed welcome of daylight. Tonight I hope to bring you a touch of the most wonderful time of the year a little early, and not just with coverage of tonight's topic, but with our awesome new sponsor, Shudder. We're the kind of people who crave access to a whole realm of horror, terror, suspense, and thrillers at hand for any given moment, and Shudder knows exactly how to fill that need. Explore the largest, fastest growing human-curated selection of content in dark entertainment, from exclusive and original films and series to horror classics and blockbusters, with new content added weekly. Unlimited access is available ad-free for $5.99 a month or $56.99 a year across a range of devices, which include iPhone, Android, iPad, Xbox One, Google Chromecast, Apple TV, and my personal favorite, Roku. Those of you who have seen my October series Monster Hunt might remember Cropsy, the legend that inspired the horror tale of the campsite slasher. The original film that used him, The Burning, is available on Shudder, which is a fantastic find. One of Shudder's exclusives I've been excited about is on here too, In Search of Darkness, which is a major documentary effort exploring the 80s golden age of theatrical horror. The collections feature is excellent, organizing entire lists by category, like Essentials, The Foundations of Horror, and Smart Slashers. And that's just scratching the surface. There's a whole range of genres and international work. You can get started streaming the best horror, thriller, and supernatural content. Shudder's expertly curated collection includes titles like the acclaimed Tigers Are Not Afraid, One Cut of the Dead, Revenge, and the Creep Show TV series, produced by Greg Nicotero and based on the famous films by George Romero. That's what I'm really excited about. How could I not root on new material by an old fellow horror host? The Creep from Creepshow back with new stories? Feels like autumn already. To try Shudder free for 30 days, go to Shudder.com and use the promo code NIGHTMIND. That's Shudder, spelled S-H-U-D-D-E-R, with the promo code NIGHTMIND. No space between night and mind. Maybe by the end of the month, you'll be brimming with exciting new ideas of your own to contribute to the world of dark media. Thanks to Shudder for the awesome sponsor and offer for NightMind viewers. Now, let's see what's in store for us from tonight's hidden web series gem, Anomalies. During our last visit together, we covered In the Dark, also known as Louise Paxton or Louise is Missing, a tale from 2007 concerning a haunted flat. This was an approach to the domestic paranormal terror concept in the early days of YouTube. 7 years later, we would receive Anomalies, the 2014 series visiting a very similar concept. Unlike In the Dark, Anomalies stayed deeply underground, with only 66 subscribers total and their highest view count sending just over 800 views. This endeavor didn't go anywhere near the amount of attention it should have gathered, considering the quality of the work, the pacing, and the natural presentation of the actors. It's also not much of a time commitment at all to ask for viewers, clocking it at just under 53 minutes. As with Louise Paxton, I've created a playlist for you available in the video description, and I highly encourage sitting down and watching it to get the full experience. Especially because it would be nice for Anomalies to finally get some justice in the view count after all these years. There are some really fun points here and moments that make you want to scroll back on the timeline and see something again. Hit the playlist, enjoy the ride, and then come back to me here. Believe me, it's much more fun when you see it all first. All set? Excellent. Let's begin. When Anomalies opens, we explore the apartment with one of its inhabitants, who looks like he hasn't operated a camera in a while. There's no speech, no immediate thoughts he wants to share. He's here to accomplish something and takes a walk around, making sure the camera is functioning well when already something occurs that grabs our attention.
Woo! What's up? Not much, man. Not much.
Picked up some good shit.
Get some groceries for dinner.
What do you do?
Told you, man, I'm recording it. All that weird shit.
What weird shit?
You know,
The noises?
All the noises. Recording it, man. Speaking of noises, man, was that book always on the ground there, or? Yeah, so I think we should definitely start recording this stuff.
I think it's something.
I don't know if it's that.
Well, Cass was staying over the other night, and she said she heard something in the middle of the night.
There you have.
I don't know what though. I don't know if she.
It could be nothing, but if it is something, we got it.
Yeah.
We got it. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'll walk around with it, or if I hear something, I'll set it up and start recording. Hopefully, catch something.
Yeah.
So these two are the tenants, and right away, they feel great to be around. Natural, everyday guys, curious about some weird things going on, excited at the chance of catching a ghost on camera. You believe it, you're with them, and you want to see if anything happens too. We hang out with Steve and Brendan for a bit on the first night of surveillance, and before too long, another bang occurs.
You hear that? Brendan? Jesus Christ, why didn't you answer me? Did you hear the bang?
No. What bang?
The bang, there was a bang in the kitchen or something. Something fell or something. I called your name, I didn't answer.
I didn't hear you call my name. It was right there. I didn't hear you call my name.
As Steve heads to bed, we're left in the hall with a camera. A little bit of a mind game for us as viewers, half expecting something to take place. Instead, we roll into the next episode, reviewing footage with Steve, who ultimately finds nothing except Brendan readjusting the camera after a trip to the bathroom. The boys forget about their situation for a bit and head to a dinner party that night with some friends.
Like, in all seriousness, you guys dealing with some
Does it look good, Brendan?
things?
Yeah.
Have you been filming it the whole time?
Yeah.
Nothing like crazy though.
No, like
there's no
like a
extra
bang or
stuff
something
in
like that.
Something happened. I don't know exactly what the details were, but like she saw a ghost basically.
What do you mean? A ghost?
Like there was a ghost there. The dog was barking and looking at a ghost, and her mom felt really weird and uncomfortable about it, and there was a ghost in her outlook. Can I smoke a cigarette while I'm doing this?
Moments like these may seem like random events, but when we go for an everyday life interrupted approach to storytelling, things like this increase the legitimacy a lot. It's not a long intrusion either. It's just enough to add what's needed to the atmosphere and show that Steve and Brendan have lives, they have friends. They're just a couple of guys who are also trying to deal with something odd in their apartment in the hours outside of normal life. We can believe in their situation so much more because we have glimpses like these. Glimpses, mind you, not entire sequences. It's not too little, it's not too much. And that's a note that everybody should take who approaches things in found footage of this kind, because this is very much a found footage approach. They aren't using YouTube or related social media to act in character, which means the characters aren't doing any of this in live time. Our ability to witness any of it comes from the end result of the footage, which had a non-audience purpose in its creation, being found and then delivered to an audience. Back to our story. Steve and Brendan head home, set up the camera, and during the night, our surveillance session in the hall produces a result as something shifts the camera to the left. Episode 3 opens with Brendan in his room, who snaps to attention when he hears a noise coming from somewhere in the apartment. He takes the camera and goes to investigate.
Dude, the craziest shit just happened.
What happened?
Come into the kitchen. Come into the kitchen. I was in the shower and I heard some banging coming from the kitchen. Mm-hmm. So I went to my room, got the camera, and then started recording it. I came into the hallway and I heard it again coming from the kitchen. So I come in here, and this chair is up against the wall I grab the chair, put it back, go to leave, and as I'm leaving, it slides right back to the wall and slams into the wall. And I caught it on camera.
Not good. Have you looked at the footage from last night at all?
Like the hallway? No.
Did you
No.
bump the camera last night?
Did I? No. I didn't bump the camera. I didn't even get up last night.
When I woke up this morning, the camera was like facing the wall.
Before we sit down with Steve and Brennan reviewing footage, I want to highlight something here. Remember how we opened with the camera active on Brendan in his room and then suddenly we hear the noise? Usually we'll have our suspicions about things like that, asking, why did the camera just happen to be on? Turns out it wasn't. Listen to the way he tells the story again.
The kitchen.
I was in the shower and I heard some banging coming from the kitchen. So I went to my room, got the camera, and then started recording it. I came into the hallway and I heard it again coming from the kitchen.
He had been in the shower when he first heard the noise, so he got dressed quick, turned on the camera, and that's where we find him at the start. He's waiting to see if the noise happens again. It was such a quick explanation, but it immediately takes care of a logical hole and brings up a very important lesson. If you are ever doing anything like this, you need a believable, logical reason for your camera to be on. If someone can ask, why was the camera on just in the right moment to catch activity for your story beat? And your answer is, well, I just needed the camera to be on, or the main character just felt like filming at that moment, it is not an acceptable answer. Always follow Brendan and Steve's example. Give us a logical reason that camera was on. Back at the computer, they see the footage of the camera turning, and it motivates Steve to step things up. He wants a second camera, something stationary to keep on top of things from more than one angle. Brendan suggests placing the camera that night in the kitchen instead of the hallway, and after doing that, the window curtains make it clear whatever's haunting this place isn't going to let them down. In episode 4, Brendan takes care of an issue that he doesn't seem to recognize might be related to their problem, but is a clear sign to the audience.
What are you doing?
Throwing out the rest of the plant. I water it every day, and it is dead. Keeps dying.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So that's the last of it. I don't know.
So the stuff that's been happening is getting pretty crazy, eh?
Yeah. Last night was pretty crazy.
That's pretty freaky. I didn't hear anything last night, though, did you? What do you think we should do?
What can we do? I don't know. I didn't believe in this stuff until now. Until it started happening to us.
It's not like, I don't know, things dropping anymore. It's getting pretty physical.
I don't even know who to contact. With that guy that Kyle was talking about.
Yeah.
Haha, did you notice that? That was subtle. Brendan might have missed how unnatural it is that his plants are dying, but Steve hesitates when he sees the living room plant, focusing on it just long enough to let us know he's thinking about it before cutting away. This is an excellent method of underlining what a character is thinking or feeling without making them say anything. A camera isn't just a recording tool, it's another means of expression and storytelling on its own. The guys set up the camera in the kitchen and discuss what they're doing for dinner when a new sound anomaly makes them both go on the hunt. The front door is now opening on its own. Later that night, Brendan's girlfriend visits and he informs her what's going on. Curiosity leads her to sit down with him reviewing the footage they've caught.
What was that? Is that Steve?
Steve's not alone.
Really? I thought...
Come on.
This is a joke to scare me. Is this not funny?
You think this is a joke?
Yeah, you always scare me.
Stay behind me, alright?
Yeah. It's not from me.
No. It's my door.
Babe, your ego's moving.
Brennan sets up the camera for the night, which shows Cass expressing that she's a bit more worried about this than before. Steve comes home, looking a bit wary, but nothing paranormal happens. Episode 5 begins in darkness, and Steve notes that the power is out. Somehow, there's still power out on the street. He checks the front door to make sure it's not open again, then continues exploring the apartment until experiencing an event of his own in the kitchen. The next day, he brings the camera around to Brendan, who's setting up a GoPro in the living room. The footage that follows establishes their new setup, the GoPro in the kitchen and the hallway camera. Steve and Brendan head to bed, and a few hours in, Brendan appears in the kitchen, looking odd. There's no telling how long he hovers there, even if we can at least tell he's sleepwalking. What we don't expect is the big purple bruise on his arm he wakes up with the next morning in episode 6.
Unexplained movement, unexplained temperature changes, the feeling of being touched.
Ghosts fall into 2 different categories, intellectual and residual. And I think the big difference between those is like one can communicate with you and you can communicate with it. The other one you can't. It doesn't know that it's really there. Kind of like, I guess ghosts are people that don't know they're dead. And then there's demons, which are not human. So they're saying you can catch demon voices on tape or just recording. These spirits may bite, push, shove, scratch, and attack without provocation. Raised welts and lesions may suddenly appear on the body. So bad news bears if it's a demon?
Yeah, it's hard to say what we're dealing with though, because I mean it's physical, but it's not like really attacking us yet. I mean, unless that bruise.
This is...
Yeah.
Cameras are put back in place for surveillance that night. While nothing visual is caught on camera, there is a loud sliding noise, which catches Brendan's attention. He goes to investigate but leaves the camera behind, and the episode ends. In the next upload, it's morning, and Brendan comes back for the camera wearing the same clothes. It's as if there's only been a time jump. What happened?
So I woke up in here, on the couch.
Things are certainly escalating. Brennan went to investigate the activity that night, but somehow he fell asleep. The haunting's effects are getting stronger with him. The guys head out for a bit, acknowledging how much better the outside feels than the apartment. Steve expresses that the moment he walks through the front door lately, there's something immediately wrong, an overwhelming sort of presence. We meet up with the guys later at night in the living room.
Open the door. You alright?
No, man.
Come check this out right now. Are you bleeding?
Am I bleeding?
Is that you?
No.
There are better mixes for realistic blood than what was used here, but I want to point out something I found was good. Steve's reaction when the door closed was not to try forcing it back open with one hand while still holding the camera. He acted like a logical person in a panic situation, putting it down and then trying to free Brennan with his full effort. And yet, the camera keeps rolling, letting us stay with the action. The mercy of content like this is that you can absolutely forsake moments of cinematography and go after the appropriate action instead, which lends more power to realism. Episode 8 opens in the dark, followed by a shot of Brendan, who reports the power is out again. This time, exploring is a much scarier idea, considering the past activity. Still, he wanders around the apartment, checking for the presence of whatever's haunting them. The sound of a door creaking leads him down the hall.
Steve? Jesus Christ, man. What are you doing?
Just bleeding in the bathroom.
What?
Just bleeding in the bathroom.
Dude, what are you talking about? Hey, Kyle, how's it going?
Not too bad. How you doing?
Not bad. Do you remember that guy that you said you knew? We were at the party at we were partying at G's place, and we were on the balcony, and you were talking about that guy that you knew that dealt with, I don't know.
Paranormal stuff?
Yeah.
Is it getting like weird for you guys? And there's no way that it could just be like, you know, something happening in the house or like noises.
At this point, no. It's much worse.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's definitely something.
Yeah, that's a bit concerning. But
Yeah.
yeah, well, I'll text you this guy's number, and you can call him, and he'll probably come by.
Okay.
Cool. All right, man. Well, yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, but we kind of fucked up. So good luck with things.
Thanks a lot, Kyle.
Cool. I'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye.
See ya.
In the following episode, Kyle's friend arrives to see if he can offer advice. They fill him in, including discussion of Steve's moment sleepwalking the other night. Then, of course, a review of the footage.
It's not a ghost.
It's not a ghost.
No, like a ghost is just like a memory, a physical memory. It's not interacting. Basically, a ghost is just something that's happened and it continues to happen again. It has no will. Whereas this seems more like something that has never been physical. It's something that's just not from the physical realm. It's never existed in human form. It's just an entity, it's just a being. So I would just advise leaving soon, because if it's already starting to manifest itself through you, it's clearly picked you for whatever it wants. And I really don't want to mess around with that. So yeah, I'd
That's
move.
it?
Yeah, I'd move, I'd get out.
There's nothing like.
No, I would just get out.
But I mean, there's nothing we can. There's absolutely nothing we can do to get rid of it.
I just wouldn't mess around with it, to be honest.
There's got to be something we can do without just leaving.
They don't ask for refunds. I mean, just it's money, right? It's more important than money. This isn't just something silly. Like, this is just get out. Don't worry about money. Okay?
Good luck.
There have been small hints of repeat frames or camera glitches in some episodes, which you'll have caught if you watch the playlist. Most of them I've found to be unnecessary, but that one we just experienced, mixed with a phantom sound, is a nice touch. We return after the break to Brendan in the kitchen. Wow! You were expecting something like another cabinet opening just then, right? Watching this the first time, that's what was on my mind. That's what would have been predictable. But seeing something try to attack Brendan like that, leaving physical evidence on top of whatever trick went into making the cabinet door open, that was superb. I went back and forth on the timeline just watching this happen over and over, trying to gauge how they did it and see if there was any sort of artifacts of video editing involved. It worked so smoothly, it happened so fast, and this, for me, was an instant turning point in the series. It was already pretty good, but that moment showed me things could turn great. In episode 10, Steve unpackages a flash attachment for the camera and explains to Brendan what he read online as measures of defense against demons.
So, one person said that if you get like a flash or just anything that sprays a large quantity of light, you might be able to expose like whatever the demon or the ghost or. And then I read another article that was talking about like a triangle trap. You could like trap whatever entity in a little perimeter with salt. I don't know, I gotta read up on it more, but
You trap it, like actually trap this thing?
yeah. So I think I'm gonna try to lure it to the trap and then maybe, I don't know.
So you think-
close it with this.
You think with this flash you're actually going to see what we're dealing
I
with?
don't know, maybe.
Using salt, Steve creates the trap he read about, a Star of David with a stick of incense burning in the middle. He then takes the camera around to see if it provokes the entity. I'd say I'm sorry for the jump scare, but I'm not, because I needed you to see it. I wanted you to see that because it was actually good. Jump scares are notorious, and they're notorious because Sturgeon's law applies to the technique. 90% of them are awful. In horror, you need to earn your jump scares, and that means putting in the work to build tension, anticipation, and fear to such a point that you know eventually the hit is going to come. Most jump scares fail because a lot of movies that have used them didn't put in the work, like the awful jump scares of a bird hitting the window, or a stranger's dog suddenly barking, even the appearance of a person at random accompanied by a violin shriek out of nowhere. If the atmosphere of expectation and fear doesn't exist, the jump scare is cheap. It wasn't earned. Here, we've had 10 episodes of build-up on this demon, and only once an atmosphere meant to fully provoke it has been established and explored in the dark long enough to make us nervous does it finally appear, in a true jump-in-your-seat fashion. That jump scare is the law of good jump scares demonstrated for anyone who would ever use the technique. Remember, a jump scare is only ever good when you've created an atmosphere that imposes the idea of an incoming threat or disaster, and the jump scare itself is either delivering on that threat or it increases the tension before the danger finally strikes. No barking dogs, no friends knocking on windows, no violin shrieks. Lesson point over. Let's keep going.
Get out of our house! Steve. We gotta do something, man. I can't stay there. We can't.
Bravo. You can't tell me that wasn't fun. From the beginning, the very beginning of that episode, we have tricks at play on camera you don't expect, and then they just keep coming. I ran through that opening segment with a coffee table and sofa over and over again, the chairs moving in the kitchen, and I have ideas on how they might have been done, but you sure can't see the evidence. Everything flowed so smoothly, and on a timeline, it all makes sense. They just attempted to assault this demon and made it mad enough to appear on camera for a moment. It is determined now to drive them out. Absolutely stunning episode. The next episode up, number 12, opens with Brendan calling his girlfriend, asking if he can stay the night. But she seems way too scared herself to even agree. He and Steve need to come up with a plan now.
I'm thinking we stop recording.
You think
stuff. Yeah, it seems like we're provoking it. And the same thing too. Like I don't want to stop recording either because I think documenting all these events is necessary.
Yeah.
But it's at a point where it's like threatening.
Mm-hmm. Well, we can stop recording and see how things go. Maybe they'll.
Just for a little while. Yeah. See what happens.
Yeah.
See if things stop or things get worse or things stay the same. I don't know. It's just another experiment.
Okay.
This next sequence is excellent. Steve and Brendan agree to stop recording, but we suddenly find ourselves looking through the camera, which has been left in the kitchen. Someone picks it up, opens a door, and heads into Brendan's room. Immediately, we assume Steve is sleepwalking or possessed and things are about to get bloody. Then we leave Brendan's room, head down the hall, and open the door to Steve's room where he's asleep. Neither of them are holding this camera.
Brendan? Brendan, what are you doing? Brendan.
There's plenty to praise about that sequence, but I want to point out something awesome for you. I went through it, frame by frame, as Brendan picked up the knife, when it landed, when Steve turned back and approached the window, and it's all one continuous shot. No cuts in the footage. You can even see Brendan holding the knife all the way into a throwing motion here. When he's gone during the next moment, he has disappeared without any edits. It's clear from a cinematric standpoint that they must have had a friend with similar build wear an identical set of clothes and stand outside for this while Brendan got out of the way of the shot. But the setup and workflow here were on point. And that's on top of breaking expectations regarding who was holding the camera and what could happen next. Episode 13 is a bit different, showing us footage from 1 year earlier. Brendan and Steve are moving into the apartment together, bringing furniture, decorating, just doing the general moving in process. They hang out later, having some drinks, when Brendan drops his cap, which rolls under the stove. They move it aside to retrieve the cap, not wanting to make a mess in their new place, and they make a discovery.
Check this out, man.
What is that?
I don't know. And what's that? Voodoo shit, man.
I think it's salt. Guess we should just clean that up.
Yeah.
Previous tenants left us a nice mess.
This bit of backstory shows us something pretty clear. First, we know why they've been having problems with the demon now. There were measures in place to keep it at bay when they moved in, and knowing nothing about what they were seeing, they swept it up, effectively tearing a spiritual lock off their front door. The item with wooden tape that's picked up in back of the stove is a cheap triangle trap. Steve mistook the Seal of Solomon, shown here, as the trap itself. He also neglected to form a circle around it, which would complete the seal and separate the figure known as the demon-obstructing Seal of Solomon from the traditional Judaic Star of David. To be perfectly clear on this matter, however, the major difference between the Star of David and the Seal of Solomon is the formation of the triangles, not just the presence of that overall circle. In a Star of David, just draw 2 overlapping triangles with the points up and down, and for a Seal of Solomon, draw them interlocking, as if both triangles are 3D pieces on their own interwoven. That's kind of difficult to do with a load of salt in such a small space though, so I understand what they're trying to portray here and why it's not the full seal. Just a bit of occult knowledge for you kids out there. The overall point with this scene, however, is very clear. And now, episode 14, taking us back to the present moment. Steve approaches Brennan outside, who seems to be focused on some roadkill. He suddenly snaps to attention, chasing Steve back to the apartment. He finds the bathroom full of blood and a distinctly bad smell, then finds the apartment door has opened. Brendan is back inside.
Brennan? Oh my god.
I'm going to go through this for you because the end sequence might be tough for anybody who's a touch sensitive to strobes. Steve enters the kitchen, urging the demon to leave when he's knocked down and then dragged out of sight. And just like that, the episode ends. And with it, the series. If that ending feels a bit sudden, it's for a good reason. Going to the Facebook page for the series, we find Anomalies advertise that upload as the finale to Season 1. There was more planned for this, but it just never happened, which leaves us with episode 14 as, effectively, the ending. So, what is there for us to take away from this? Is it necessarily fair to judge the final episode on the basis that it wasn't meant to be a complete ending? Only to a degree. It was an ending, but not the complete stopping point. And for a first big moment of conclusion, I can certainly appreciate what was done. I do feel as if there may be things that were planned for the second season as story segments to unravel that explain why it is this episode included a very sudden kill room aspect. Why the sheet? Why the bloody instruments? What was going on here? The writing up until this point is more logical than some projects and understands things need to have meaning or reason to occur. So what's the thought process here? My only guess is that this demon has a history of dark influence in the apartment, and Brennan may not be the first victim to suddenly grab some knives. But why the blood? Is this just more manifestation related to the demon's history? I suppose only Steve and Brendan, as creators, can answer that. The topic of the finale is tough for the potential continuation reasons, but we can at least judge everything that came before it, and aside from a need for a much better blood recipe, I've got to hand it to them. This was a fun, quick, and thoroughly competent and engaging project. My highest point of praise goes to an area that, understandably, a lot of new projects do struggle with, but is still one of the categories that everyone should seek to nail: being natural and believable. There was never a point that I felt Steve or Brennan were acting or pulled in someone who was acting. This felt so natural, so legitimate, and that makes everything that happens in a project easier to believe and overall better. My second round of applause goes to the tricks involving paranormal activity. These moments are so good, with no ability to see evidence of how it was done, and it's just fun to see them happen. There probably are some very obvious answers for how a lot of it was done, but the execution is so good that it does have you going back and forth with a timeline trying to see a wire, maybe a flash of a hand. I kept analyzing Brendan's back during this scene to judge whether or not he had some kind of device strapped under his shirt with a remote vacuuming action, or maybe some kind of thrusting piece to lift his shirt quickly and then collapse. And even if we can attribute everything going on in the apartment during episode 11 to friends of theirs moving as covertly and quickly as they could, you can't deny how smooth that entire sequence played out. Everything happened in rapid succession. Logic in this series holds up, especially concerning the presence and activity of the camera. The only points I'm going to deduct come from a low reaction to the blood on the mirror, and one logical story failure that stems from episode 13. Steve kept the triangle trap, but forgot about the seal made of salt under the stove when they first moved in? It didn't occur to either him or Brendan that sweeping it up might have been what put them in the situation, especially when Steve tried to make one himself? Really, that should have been enough for him to remember and mention it. That's the only point in the writing that I've really got to press on. But beyond those criticisms, this was a solid endeavor. Really genuinely good and fun. It's inspiring, honestly. Look how much was accomplished using only a home location, some tricks, and a couple of friends. They didn't have to do anything crazy to show you a crazy story that was engaging and believable. Between the early achievement of In the Dark and the work done years later with Anomalies, creators have been proving since 2007 that you don't have to go overboard or write some huge concept to make awesome experiences. You don't need to know special effects, you don't need to be a makeup artist or no one, you just have to plan it out and execute it well. That being said, I suppose there is a question to be asked, which comes up in some of the comments throughout the series, including at the end. Why didn't more people find this project or talk about it? There can be a number of reasons. Taking a guess, I would say its presentation on YouTube was the main issue. Anomalies very much follows the path of trying to bill itself as a deliberate work of fiction with branding and a feel that is not very attracted to major self-advertising or recognition of fictional natures. If we had witnessed something like Cass, Brendan's girlfriend, writing in the About tab and the video descriptions from a position of being the one to find and upload this found footage, it might have been enough to hit the circles of people who appreciate unfiction and found footage stories. But billing itself immediately as fiction, as a web series, with the kind of look and video descriptions that give the impression of a startup studio, that generates the air of advertisement and company work, and that doesn't often attract the kind of crowd that would have followed and celebrated this. More often, it actually repels us. Presentation in the form of found footage uploaded by someone who knew Steve or Brendan also would have driven the morbid need to know from those who suspect something like this might be real. That mindset also encourages further discussion, faster engagement, increased sharing to individuals, groups, forums. It fuels attention, period. The approach of coming across completely open as fiction can produce the kind of reaction in people that makes them roll their eyes and say, "Oh, never mind, it's fake," and then they never engage. The effect is worse when it's there from the beginning. There's an undeniable matter of stigma between independent studios rolling out projects on YouTube or Vimeo and independent studios who get their work on streaming platforms, and it's a tough stigma to overcome. Anomalies made a fun, engaging project that succeeds in a lot of spots where other projects completely fail. But it was the presentation, I believe, that ultimately kept them from the audience they deserved. But it does feel good knowing that even 6 years later, we have the ability to come by and pay it a proper visit. And with that, I think we're ready to leave another haunted apartment behind. I'd like to thank Shudder for opening our journey and providing an awesome offer to explore their library free for 30 days. And my sincere thanks to all of you for viewing as always. Major thanks to all the supporters on Patreon, who help keep me in a position to be the only monster that haunts all of your homes. You can support Nightmind and the work that I do by joining for just $2 a month, which helps out much more than you realize and gets your name in the credits of every major video. Stick around to see all the awesome creatures of the night currently on that Patreon roll in just a moment. Thanks for joining me in the dark again this evening. Once more, I'm Nick Nocturne, and I'll be seeing you again real soon. Take care, and sleep tight.